Hey loves, this is SR Welcome to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Enjoy. What's up, y'all? I am back with another video. In this video, I will be giving you guys a breakdown of my first novel, Two Monogamous. It's the first book of the Two Monogamous series. So far, I have 3 books that are published in the series, and then I have 3 that are not published yet. I just got done writing book 6. Well, the 6th book in the series, but it will be book 7. And I'll go back and do book 6 because I haven't written book 6 yet. It will be a novella. And the reason why I skipped it was because it was easier for me to just transition from book 5 to book 7 because it continued the storyline, but it shifted the main characters basically. But I went online and I found like some questions that are usually asked when people are interviewing authors or whatever, just to be able to give myself like a guide so I won't be talking for so long or whatever. And so I hope that these questions answer some of your questions. This particular video is going to be for readers, and maybe I'll do another one for writers. Like if anybody want advice on, I guess you could say, a formula I use when writing my book. I didn't really follow a formula, but I can go back and like think about the steps that I took or whatever when I got ready to do it, and then kind of write something down for y'all. Figure it. I can definitely figure out how to navigate y'all through the writing experience in detail, instead of just like giving y'all advice on what to know or before you write or what to do when you get ready to write. I think that I can, create like a guide. If y'all want to see that, let me know in the comments, but I'm gonna get right into the video. So the name of my novel, which I said before, is Two Monogamous, and it is book 1 in the Two Monogamous series. The series, I feel like, is pretty long. Like I said, I'm already on book 7, and I got a good bit more books to go. Of course, the first storyline has ended. Like the main characters was Yara, Dustin, Teresa, Quincy. Yeah, Yara, Dustin, Teresa, and Quincy. And then later on, a character is introduced at the end of a book, and it kind of like lifts a veil on things or whatever. Because of course, Two Monogamous is spelled TWO Monogamous. So this already tells you that there's a secret. There's something that will be uncovered within the book, but of course you have to read pretty far into it, not too far into it, to get to that point. And because everybody hasn't read it, like it's still pretty new because it hasn't like made its rounds. Like I think I published it in 2019. Because it's still new, I'm gonna try not to spoil it, but at the same time I want to give information on it so you guys can decide if you want to buy it or not, read it or not. Okay. The inspiration behind this book. The inspiration, I can't really say that there was one particular thing that inspired me. I used to write short stories ever since I was in high school, and I would like keep these notebooks of like these short stories that I was writing. And when I say writing, I mean like handwrite. And like there was the short story that I was working on. I can't remember the name of it. I still have it somewhere in my notes, but I'm not about to go dig in my on my bookshelf or whatever for it. But I forgot the name of it. But the character Yara was the main character of that short story. And I think that book I was planning to turn it into a novel or whatever, but I didn't really know a whole lot about writing. I didn't know a lot about writing novels and stuff like that. I always, like, ever since I was like, I would say about 6, 7 years old, I always wrote stories. But I started this story about this girl Yara. She was a writer. She lived in Atlanta. And she was dating this guy. His name was Rocky, if I'm not mistaken, in the book. But I never finished that book for whatever reason. I think it was because I just kind of like, I'm one of those people that I start a lot of stuff and I don't finish them right then, but I always come back and finish. So it pretty much started as like that, like the character at least, but the subject, the theme or whatever of the book was later developed while I was writing it. Like I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I just knew what I want. Like I knew that I wanted to write a book and I had this one character, Yara. And so I had that one character profile, whatever. She was a writer. She was in her late 20s. Kind of like about to turn 30. So when you about to turn 30, you go through certain things in your life or whatever. Well, anyway, I guess you could say it was inspired by another book that I started with that character. And then there was a sex scene that I wrote in that book, the book that I was going to write at first. And so I took that sex scene and I kind of built a story around a sex scene. It was just that simple. Like it was just that scene. And when it comes to me writing and me developing characters and stuff like that, I'll have particular characters in my head or particular like imaginary people in my head, and I'll have a story in my head and it'll replay over and over and over and over again until I write it. Like I'm one of those people who get haunted by stories. Like they will bug me until I write them. So it was one of those situations and I was like, it's about time that I write. I had gone to school to get my creative writing bachelor's degree in creative writing and English. After I graduated, soon as I graduated, I started writing to Monogamous. I ended up getting sick because I was in school for, I think, like maybe 2-3 years, and I have sickle cells. So I was overexerting myself by doing the work, and I was taking classes online, and it was tiring me out. So after I graduated, my body was like, I had started writing a book right after. And like my body was like, nah, sis, I'm gonna need you to sit down and take a break. You gonna need to rest before you can move on. So I stopped. And I didn't pick back up on it until a few months later, like maybe in like, I'll say this around this time in 2019. So it was inspired by Yara's character, which I wrote in another book that I was working on. And it was also inspired by a sex scene. Like I built the whole story around that one sex scene. And it's the first sex scene in To Monogamous, which is chapter 2 or 3, I think. I think it's chapter 2. Okay, I'm back. I wanted to get the books so I could show you. This was the first book cover when I first created it. I first published it. Like I said, it was in 2019, and I recently changed the book cover to this. Like whenever I decided that I was going to I was going to continue the series, I changed the book cover. And you see how thick it is. It's a lot. Like I was definitely writing too much. I definitely was, but I recently started not, making my novel shorter because I was definitely doing too much. But yeah, it was chapter 2. It's titled A One Life Stand. That sex scene was pretty much what the whole story was built around. And then that Yara's character. So that was my inspiration. Yara's character is what inspired me to write the book. Some will say, like my family members will say that it was inspired by my uncles. Like I have uncles, 2 sets of twin uncles. Like my grandma had 2 sets of twins on my mother's side. And like I guess you could say that I'll say this. My interest in twin telepathy and like the way that they can share their feelings, they may share feelings, is what inspired me. I will admit to that. But I'll talk about that toward deeper into this video or whatever. So the Yara's character, the sex scene, and I guess you could say my uncles. If y'all want to feel like it was inspired by y'all, I guess I'll give it to you. But I would summarize To Monogamous by saying it's basically about this girl, this like she was I guess you could say she was sheltered because she's very innocent and naive. She was married to her childhood friend. She was married to Quincy, who was she met him when she was a little girl. They were, I think she was like 8 and he was like 7. They met on the playground. They ended up becoming a lot closer because his living situation with his mother wasn't ideal for a kid. And Yara and her mother live in the same neighborhood as Quincy and his mother, so she found herself saving him a lot. Like whenever he would get into it with his mother, he wouldn't have a place to go. She would ask her mom if he could stay with them or whatever, and she allowed it to happen. She helped him. And then it turned into her raising him because he moved in with them permanently when he was around, I'll say, when they were teenagers. He moved in with her permanently. Because it was either that or he was going to get taken away from his mother. And in book 6, I will go into depth about Quincy's story because I feel like he is the only person who I didn't really go into depth about. Like, I do talk about his backstory a little bit, but not a whole lot because he's not really a main character in the story. But I will go into depth about his backstory in book 6, in his book, because now I'm in the process of writing each character their own books, basically. Mostly the supporting characters, because the main characters have had their story pretty much, but I am also going to do an update on them. Okay, so basically it's about this girl, Yara, who just got a divorce from her husband, Quincy, who was also her friend, her high school sweetheart, her childhood sweetheart, her college sweetheart, because they were together ever since they were like teenagers. So she just got a divorce from somebody who was her family. Basically, he was her family. She's from Atlanta. Both of them are from Atlanta or whatever, but she ends up moving to Chicago to kind of get away from Atlanta because it reminded her so much of him, and she just didn't want to be reminded of him everywhere she went. So she moved to Chicago to work as an editor-in-chief for her best friend, her college best friend, Teresa Martin, who is Afro-Latina, Puerto Rican. I think she's just Puerto Rican. I don't know. Yeah, because her story still has to develop as well. But yeah, she's Afro-Latina. Yara ends up going to Chicago to work for her friend Teresa at her magazine. She becomes editor-in-chief in Teresa's magazine, and her and Teresa were met when they were like they were freshmen in college. They were roommates. And they end up becoming best friends, but because of Quincy, after Yara got married to Quincy, Teresa and her relationship kind of stalled. Like they were estranged. Like they were still friends. You know how you grow up, you have those friends that will always mean something to you, but like even though y'all don't talk every day or whatever, y'all are still friends. Like whenever y'all meet up, it's like nothing ever happened. So that's kind of how their friendship was. And Teresa gives her a job, and they start to rekindle their friendship whenever Yara moves there. And so Teresa ends up hooking Yara up with this guy, Dustin Vargas, because Yara is still grieving her divorce from Quincy. She hasn't dated anybody. It's been a whole year. She hasn't dated anybody. She's been depressed. She's not herself. So Teresa gets the bright idea that she's gonna hook her up. I want to hook you up. I want to introduce you to this guy. And Dustin Vargas is like the perfect man on paper. Like he's established, he's rich, he's well known for he's an architect. And him and his brother has an architect a company, and they've been known across the country. They've worked on historical buildings and stuff like that, things that will be historical in the future. um so like, he's well established, he's a great guy, he's romantic, he has all of the things that a woman wants in a man. He seems to be too good to be true, and when things are too good, when things seem too good to be true, they usually are. So she hooks her up with Teresa, and then Yara starts dating him. I mean, Teresa hooks Yara up with Dustin. Yara starts dating him, and while it's great, like, she's having a great time. They're having great sex. He's very romantic. He's been taking her out on dates. She starts to like get confused or whatever about him, because like, one minute he's very romantic and he's very affectionate and passionate and all of that, and the next minute he's just like very sexual. It's just, he has like a one-track mind. It's just sex. He's very sexual or whatever. So like, she's confused. Yara doesn't really have a whole lot of dating experience. She's only been with one man her entire life. She doesn't really know how to navigate the dating world, so she puts up with a lot. I will say that. With Dustin, she ignores a lot of red flags. She lets a lot of things go that she shouldn't let go. While she's dating him. And they date, and then things start happening. They start going through a couple problems, and then like I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail in this video right here, but I will do that in like another video down the line or something. I'll give it some time. But just a brief explanation, a brief summary. It's about this writer named Yara who moves to Chicago after she gets a divorce from her husband, who's also her childhood friend, her childhood best friend, and she is introduced to this almost too good to be true man named Dustin Vargas by her friend and boss, Teresa Martin, who owns a magazine. And she pretty much like gets wined and dined by this man and stuff like that, and things start happening. Quincy makes an appearance. He comes to Chicago. He makes an appearance in town. The way that Yara meets or sees Quincy is dramatic, to say the least. Like, the way that it happens is so dramatic. But like, he comes back and he tells her that he's interested in rekindling their relationship, their friendship, whatever. So now she's confused. She has this guy who's a good guy or whatever, and then she has her ex-husband who she's always loved, that she don't really know what to do. And then other problems start to arise in the situation, and it gets messy. And you kind of just see how she navigates things, not knowing a whole lot about relationships and life and stuff like that. I think it's very interesting to see somebody who's been sheltered their whole life deal with situations like this that's happened. And if you were one of the people, because I wouldn't say that I was sheltered, but I definitely was naive to a lot of things when it came to dating. And I learned, I was in a terrible relationship where I learned a lot. Like, I never need to have a terrible relationship again. I learned everything I needed to know about how things could go in relationships. Okay, any lessons that I learned? While doing research and stuff for this novel, I did learn a lot about twin telepathy and how twins have the ability to share each other's emotional feelings, and also sometimes physical. Like, sometimes they physically feel something that the other one feels. I actually asked my grandma a lot of questions about my uncles and growing up and how they were. And one set of twins that she has is identical, one set is fraternal. And I was asking her, like, was there really a difference in between? I think she said the identical twins, the twin telepathy was a lot more powerful than the fraternal ones. Like, they also had moments and stuff like that too, but it wasn't as powerful as the identical twins. And I'm definitely not an expert, and I'm only going off of like what I researched online, and mostly my family experience. So like, you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. But I also, the subjects of this book, like, I wanted to twin telepathy is one of the things that I wanted to touch on and, you know, kind of like experiment with it within this fantasy world that I created. I also wanted to touch on mental illnesses because Dustin does have a mental illness that he's hiding from Yara. She doesn't know anything about it, so that could explain why he's very confusing or whatever. Also, mental illnesses, twin telepathy, those are some of the lessons. And also how authors put pieces of themselves into characters without even really knowing it. Because when I first started writing this book, when people were asking me if Yara was based off of me, I was like, no, like she's a lot different than I am. And at first she was, but as her character develops, I did start to see the resemblance, I guess, in personalities, the things that she's done, the way she's seeing, the way she thinks, the way she processes things, the kind-heartedness, the compassion. I see how it related to me. And not just me, like I feel like when you write a story, you put pieces of yourself in each character and pieces of the people around you, the people that influence you, even though you might not want to admit it, or you might not think you do, you do. But yeah, the lessons that I learned were about twin telepathy, about mental illness, and like I said, as an author, the way that my personality and my experiences influences the way that I write. What surprised me about this book, the way that it turned out, honestly, because I didn't go into writing my story, I didn't go into writing the novel, I didn't go into it with an idea of what was going to happen. I had a character, I had a sex scene, and I had some experiences, and I just sat down and I write, and that's what came out. Everything that happened in the book is what came out. So the thing that surprised me the most about my novel is what happened, how it ended. Like, I'm not going to go into detail, but the ending was very surprising. Like, it wasn't something that you saw coming. You didn't see it happening. But what happened in the end had to happen for the story to develop the way that it has. I will say that. Okay, the title "Too Monogamous" is definitely a double entendre. Of course, it's spelled TWO monogamous, which means that, okay, the first meaning is that too monogamous, meaning that Yara was too monogamous. Like, she was so monogamous to Dustin, just like she was too monogamous to Quincy. She was so monogamous to Quincy, and so, like, when I say monogamous, I mean loyal. Like, I only want to be with him. There's nobody else for me. Like, this is it for me. He's gonna be with me forever. And she was so monogamous to the point that she was naive. Like, she really thought that they were going to be together forever. And I feel like Quincy did at first too, but when she wasn't able to give him what he really wanted, he didn't feel the need for her. And I feel like that kind of set her up, thinking that they were going to be together forever because they pretty much known each other almost their whole lives. Her thinking that kind of set her up, and she kind of had to start over, even though she got like money in a divorce or whatever. That's not what she wanted. She never wanted to divorce him. She wanted to be with him, even though he wasn't that great of a person to her. She wanted for things to work out. And I feel like her being so loyal and her being so like, this is my husband, and she sacrificed a lot for that relationship. She sacrificed her friendship for one with Teresa, and now you divorce this man, and you have to go back, running back to this friend that you gave up for him. Basically, like, you put being a wife over being a friend. And I know a lot of women do that. And so the title kind of like it's a double entendre explaining that basically she was too monogamous, she was too loyal, And she did the same thing when she with Dustin. She was so loyal to him that she kept ignoring the red flags. She kept ignoring all of the things that she should have been paying attention to because she wanted to have a perfect relationship with him so bad. And so the other meaning is spelled TWO because of course there's a hidden layer to the story. Like okay, I put she was so monogamous that she was loyal. She was monogamous to a fault, basically, and then she was monogamous to. I ain't, I don't want to give it away, but she was monogamous to the point that she couldn't see things that should have been visible to her. It should have been common sense. I'll say that. I don't want to spoil it for people who gonna read it. So yeah, that's pretty much what the title means. It is a double entendre for a lot of the times people in relationships are blinded by their loyalty to a person or whatever, and they really invest them all of themselves. And not saying that it's a bad thing. I feel like when you're in a relationship, you should give your all, but you should also realize that this person, you may not be with them for the rest of your life, and like you should also protect yourself in that relationship. You should also move in a way where if something happens, you will be fine. You will be able to go on without that person. But when you tie yourself to somebody so tight, you intertwine it to the point that you can't unhook yourself, it's easy to get like hurt worse than normal, because I feel like we all get hurt. We're all going to get hurt. There's nothing wrong with that. We're humans. But like to the point that she had to move to a different state because like she couldn't deal with the fact that she couldn't be with this man in the city that she's known him in. So yeah, like she was just so wrapped up in him basically. um Subjects, opinions, and I would gather that the subjects are the characters. But I'll also say that, like when I mentioned earlier that my family thinks that the characters are based off of my uncles, it wasn't. It was based off the fact that I knew twins and I was always curious about them. Yeah, but it wasn't based off of them. Even though some of the things that uh the twins, and I'm pretty much giving away the story by saying twins. But the twins, they definitely had some of the characteristics that my uncles have. And I wouldn't say they have expressed to me that they've heard that the book was about them, but they haven't like said nothing like about it because they haven't read it, so they don't really have any opinions about it. But my mama, my aunt, all of those people that read it, they always talk about. I feel like me writing this story and them reading it and them thinking about things a different way, that's my favorite part about it. I started different conversations within my family. So you could say in a way I broke generational curses because, like I said, my uncles are twins. There's certain things that has happened. I'm not going to put their business out there. Certain things that has happened, and the first thing people, the easiest thing to say is that somebody like, okay, oh, what they're doing is wrong, what somebody is doing is wrong or whatever when they make certain decisions, but you never really stop and think about things like, what if they share feelings? What if, what if they transfer feelings? Because I kind of feel like that happens too, because you have one twin that is non-emotional and then you have one that is extremely emotional, and I kind of feel like the one that doesn't really, who is like nonchalant or whatever, has probably transferred his feelings to the other one. Like, so now he's dealing with his own feelings and his twins' feelings. So of course he seems crazy. He seems more erratic or whatever. And I don't think that the answer is always that they're crazy or they're wrong or whatever. Like, you really just don't know what it is. You don't know why a person behaves the way that they do, why a person makes the decisions that they do a lot of the times. And when it comes to twins, I feel like it's so interesting. I was always interested in knowing if they share feelings. Like, if one of them had feelings for a woman, and let's say he didn't want to feel a certain way about her, and he kind of just like relinquished those feelings, and it goes, instead of the feelings just going into the universe or whatever emotions go when you relinquish them or you release them, maybe instead of it going into the universe, it went to the other twin. And now he has feelings for the woman that the other one had feelings for or liked or was dating. Like, at least that's just how I thought about it, which is what inspired me to write this story. Because it's like, what if that is what happened? You know, maybe he's not a dog or whatever you want to say. Maybe he just dealing with some feelings, some unwanted feelings. Because I'm an empath. I felt people's feelings before. I felt intense to the point that you don't even really know if they are your feelings or the other people's. Like, it's hard to differentiate. So, in answering the question of what the subjects thought about it, like, my family definitely was more open. Like, their opinions about the twins were different. They were able to see things from a different perspective rather than labeling it as something that is easy to label. So I was really appreciative of that, and like and I have a book club, and like the conversations that this story has started with different people is what I write for. I write because I want people to look at things differently. I write a specific way because I want people to consider different possibilities and stuff like that. So I feel accomplished in doing that with this series. Okay, let's go to the next point because I did do notes. Okay, an update on the characters. Okay, so I said that this is a series. I've written 6 books. Sorry. I've written 6 books so far in this series. And like I said, without giving away too much, updates on the characters. Yara's character definitely has developed a lot. I feel like her character has developed in experience is what I'll say. But she's still really pretty much the person that she always was. She was, the one that everybody puts on a pedestal because their love and their kindness and their like compassion is so pure. You know, those people who are just pure. They're pure hearted. Like, they're hard to hate because they're such good people. And like, you put them on a pedestal, even though you shouldn't, because they're still humans. They're still capable of making mistakes, but you put them on a pedestal because you see them as innocent and pure. And I will say that her character, that is something that I have experienced in my life. Like, people have put me on a pedestal for that same reason because I come off as innocent. And I feel like to an extent I am innocent, but also I'm human. I'm capable of doing bad things and hurting people. And this character is also capable of doing that, but I feel like she can do no wrong in the other character's eyes. It doesn't really matter what she does. They still are going to see her as perfect. And for that reason, I will say her character developed the least. But she did develop an experience, and then also the way that she handles things. Like, she isn't always like optimistic about things anymore. She kind of has become more realistic, I would say, because of the influence on the other characters has had on her. Quincy, his character doesn't develop. I think his character doesn't develop at all. Like, I said Yara was at least developed, but I think Quincy definitely is at least developed. Like, he's very selfish, self-centered. Everything is about him. He wants what he wants. He's very demanding, very condescending. He thinks that he is above everybody, and he is justified in a lot of the decisions that he's made, and he feels like he has the ability to come and go in Yara's life as he pleases because she was his wife. We all know men like that. Men who are married to, or not even just men, but people who are married to somebody and they feel entitled to them even after they've divorced them. They feel entitled to them because they were once married to them. And I just don't think that that's not a thing. That's not realistic. But like Quincy's character definitely doesn't develop. He's still the same selfish, arrogant, spiteful person that he was in book 1. The twins, I feel like their character developed a lot. Their characters developed a lot. And I feel like even to the extent of the good one become like they're kind of like trading places. Like things that Dustin would have never done, he's doing it now. And since y'all know it's twins, I might as well. Things that Dario has done in book 1, he doesn't do now. It's like they've switched places. Like it's like both of them can't be completely good. I hate using the word good or bad, but like for lack of a better word, it's like one of them has to be the one that messes up and the other one has to be the one that's like keeping the other one in check or whatever. You have to keep watching. There's this like codependency. It's like one person is always going to lean on the other one whenever things aren't going right in their lives. So they definitely are codependent. Like even as they've grown and their relationship has gotten better, they're definitely codependent. Who else? Teresa's character. I think Teresa's personality definitely is pretty much the same, but she does has a boyfriend. I think he's introduced in book 1, so I could talk about that. His name is Andreas. I feel like he has had a good impact on her. Like him being in her life has helped her to be a better person, I'll say. I think those are the only characters. And Mama Charmaine's character was pretty much stayed the same. She pretty much was the mother of the group, the one that kind of like, would show up every now and then when things got crazy and keep everybody in check and make sure, she's very supportive, I'll say. How do I feel about the characters? How I feel about them? Well, of course the series isn't over, so my feelings about them definitely still can change, but Yara, I think I have a soft spot for Yara because like I said, she's a lot like I am. But I'm not biased. I'm not a biased writer. Like I don't have a favorite character. I love all of them. And plus there are also more characters that appear in book 2. I'm also going to do a breakdown of book 2 because you're introduced to other characters as well. But Yara, I feel how do I feel about her? Like I said, I have a soft spot for her. I feel like she is always going to be the innocent. I don't think that nothing she does is going to make anybody feel like she's not innocent or pure, or they're still gonna put her on a pedestal. And I wouldn't say that I've put her on a pedestal, but I understand her so much. Like I get her because I've gone through a lot of the same things that she has, and I am still the person that I am or whatever. I feel like I love the fact that no matter what she goes through, she's still a good person. Because, there are those people who use their bad experiences as justification for them being a bad person, for them doing things to people that are hurtful. And they justify it by talking about the things that has hurt them. And that's not, like, what your behavior isn't justified by somebody doing you wrong. Like, if somebody breaking your heart or doing you wrong changed you from a good person, you were never a good person. And I feel like it's very rare to find people who are not sullied by the bad things that that has happened. And I will say that that's why I love Yara's character, because no matter what she goes through, she's still that person. She's still a innocent and pure person. She's still kind-hearted. The twins, I like I love the twins. I love all of my characters. I will say that. The twins, for me, I feel like I definitely feel like they need therapy. As much as they are good people and they're loyal to, and they're very protective over Yara or whatever, I feel like they need therapy. They definitely need help because they are very codependent. And it's not okay to lean on each other the way that have. It's also not okay to handle situations the way that they have. Like they're very like, whenever they are wronged, they go to the extreme to get that get back. And I don't like that part of them. But I love all, like I said, I love all of my characters. Quincy, I have a love-hate relationship with him. I understand Quincy and why he behaves the way that he does, why he's selfish. He's been the only child. He's never had to share anything with anybody. Also, Yara and her mother coddled him and kind of made him, they thought that by taking him in and like being positive role models, that they were going to help him be a better person. It actually backfired. It made him worse, because like every time he's done something bad, they've forgiven him and allowed him to stay around, and they allow him access to them even though he's wronged them. And I feel like that hasn't made him a better person. He's a narcissist, and narcissists won't change. You can be a good person to them, you can do whatever, but they're not going to change. Like, and you being a good person to them actually makes them worse. Like, it's sad that there are people out there that are like that, but that's the reality. And I feel like with Quincy, yeah, he is to blame for the way that he acts and the things that he does. But I do feel like Yara and Mama Charmaine um has to take accountability too, for enabling him, for allowing him to act the way that he does, you know? And like I said, you have to read the book to understand what I'm talking about, but the purpose of me doing this breakdown is to encourage more people to read, because I do have my little hub of readers and my two monogamous fans and like that, but I definitely want my audience to grow. So I want to make videos like these so people will know that I'm an author, because I don't feel like a lot of people know. I feel like, I do have people on social media that do, and they have supported me and they talk to me in my DMs and stuff like that about my stories. But I will take a responsibility. I don't promote myself enough. I should have been making videos like this. I should have been doing stuff, but better late than never. I'm learning. Now I spent a lot of time rejecting the idea that I had to give people a piece of myself for them to buy into me and like my brand and what I do or whatever. I rejected it for a long time, but then I just recently come to the conclusion that I can't hide from what I'm meant to do. Like, it doesn't matter how many times I avoid it, I reject whatever, it's still always going to end up me having to be in the spotlight. Like, I would like to just create and like y'all not see my face or not have to like talk to people and stuff like that, but that's not real life and that's not how social media works. So, I've accepted that and now I'm here. And you know, I feel like this year there's going to be a lot of good things for me this year. I do have belief in that, because I am talented. I am new, but I feel like I bring something. Nobody has what I have, and that's the same with everybody. We all have something unique to bring to the table. So, do your thing. Don't let the fact that other people are doing it stop you, because nobody has you. Okay, now let me get back to the video. Okay. Next one is the characters that are inspired by real people. None of my characters are intentionally inspired by real people, but there are pieces of people in my character. Like for instance, Teresa, I would say she's more inspired by my aunt. My aunt, who she's just like this, like straightforward. She doesn't take no crap. She's gonna tell you how it is, and she don't care how you take it. I'm also like that. My mom is also like that. Like everybody in my family is pretty much like that. So like you could say she's inspired by my family. Quincy, I would say, is inspired by, I guess you could say, a culmination of, if that's the right word. I'll correct myself if it's not. A culmination of a lot of the bad experiences that I've had in my relationship. So like, not a particular guy that I've dated, but like particular flawed character traits in guys that I've dated. He's inspired by those things. The twins are, I guess you could say, they're inspired by my uncles, since they want to be the subject so bad. They're inspired by my uncles, only in the fact that they're twins. And their personalities definitely match them, but it wasn't because I was trying to make it like that. It's just that in order to get the point across that I was trying to get across, that's kind of how the characters had to be. Mama Charmaine is definitely inspired by my mother. Like, the relationship that I've had with her, just like, I don't know, like we have this connection that is unexplainable, and I know that a lot of excuse me, a lot of children think that they have a special connection with their parents, but I feel like even if she wasn't my mother, we would have this. She's like my soulmate. She always, like, I may not agree with everything she does or says, and vice versa, but at the end of the day, like, we have a bond like no other. Like, we have such a great bond or whatever, and I kind of wanted to display that in this book. Like, I wanted to write about regular people living a regular life, regular black people living a regular life, being successful and not having to sell drugs or stuff like that. Not saying that they didn't do any dirty things to get to where they are. They did, but it's not like the typical thing or whatever. I think that's all the characters that's in book 1. What do I think happened to the characters at the end of the book? The story hasn't ended yet, but Yara and the twin story has ended that storyline that I first started writing. But I do think that I'm gonna do an update on them later on. It might be a few months, years, I don't know, down the line. It definitely gonna be more than like a few months. It's gonna be a while, because I got a lot of books before I get to them. So it might be a few years down the line, but we're gonna get there. But how I think it's gonna end, I kind of feel like, I think it's gonna end with everybody kind of getting what they want, what they deserve, whether that's something good or something bad, what they want. I feel like the characters are going to learn a lot from each other by the end of the series. And hopefully they will resolve a lot of their issues and become friends again. Hopefully, like, wishful thinking. It may not happen, but I would like it to. But if it doesn't, then it doesn't. Okay, that was the last question. But I think that you guys should definitely check Too Monogamous out. You can get it from Amazon and Barnes and Noble. I'll put all of the links in the description. If you want to read a romantic suspense story about this young woman where she's in her late 20s, she's trying to figure life out, trying to figure herself out while also dating, which she's new to. She's rekindling things with her best friend from college. Like, the book is packed with a lot of drama. It's packed with action, a lot of romance, a lot of love, a lot of sex, and a lot of my readers really love my sex scenes. So you're not if you're not buying the story, at least read it for that. If you read it for the sex scenes, if that's what brings you to my book, I am okay with it. But yeah, I think you should check it out if you like romantic suspense stories about black people doing regular black things, regular black people living regular black life, doing regular black things, having the drama, the love, the money, the sex, all of the things that they desire. If you want to read about that, I'll say check out my book at Amazon and Barnes and Noble. The name of it is Too Monogamous. I definitely will put all of the links in the description, and I will also insert a book trailer at the end of this video. Thank you for watching my video. I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye. Check out my website at srgrahamwrites.org. Scroll to the very bottom of the webpage to subscribe to my mailing list to get news and updates from me. Also, check out my latest novel, Drown the Lovers. It is book 3 in the Too Monogamous series. You can purchase it from Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Thank you.